And we are live. Hello, everybody. Welcome to my UFC 248 recap. My name is Danny Segura. I am from MMA Junkie, formerly MMAfighting.com. And yes, welcome to my UFC 248 recap. Tons to talk about. Big night. So last night, Saturday night, we saw Israel Adesanya keep his middleweight title, defeating Yoel Romero in somewhat of a lackluster fight. And then right before that, we also saw another title fight, Zhang Weili defending her belt for the very first time, defeating Joanna Jedrzejczyk in one of the best fights of the year far. I mean, Canada fight of the year, one of the best fights I've ever seen, period. And I think probably the best women's strawweight title fight in the history of the UFC. So on top of that, that was the very top of the card. But on top of that, a lot of other things happened. So tons to talk about here. So if you're new to this is how it works. I've asked you to submit questions via Twitter. I will tackle those first, and then I will move over to the live chat and with whatever time is remaining, and then tackle those there and finish off. So welcome. I'm excited. This was a pretty good card for those that have been following me on social media, Twitter, Instagram, etc. I was at UFC 248. So I was there present. I am now back in New York. So this is my regular setup, no longer the makeshift thing in my hotel, although I did have the HD camera. Hopefully the audio is a little better for you guys. So yeah, I literally just got here at like 3:30 p.m. So just a few hours ago. And and I woke up on Saturday at 8 a.m. to the Dominance Media Day, and then right after that, the UFC 248 obviously event. So I haven't slept. I haven't slept in well over 24 hours. Not feeling the best, but I got my coffee and I'm ready to go. Trying to stay, with the Eastern time now. So trying to stay awake the next few hours. So I have a regular sleeping schedule. Figured if I take a nap maybe at night, I wouldn't be able to sleep. You've submitted questions via Twitter, and I'm gonna get to them. The Executioner. Why was Izzy, a counterfighter, complaining about another guy counterfighting? So, yeah, that's an interesting one. And I also saw somebody ask something similar on this, really mainly going along the lines of after the fight, I feel like there was a lot of this, the Spider-Man meme where they're like, hey, identical, like just pointing at each other. Yeah, there was a lot of pointing fingers after the fight about, who was to blame for the lack of action in that main event fight. Israel Adesanya obviously blamed Yoel Romero, and Yoel Romero obviously blamed Israel Adesanya. Now, the only difference here is that there was a little bit of a tiebreaker. Dana White hopped in and blamed Yoel Romero, said, the blame was mostly on him. Actually, we had another tie because Costa actually said on the press conference that he thought Romero was doing, it was a boring fight, but he thought Romero was doing most of the pressure and was very disappointed with Israel Adesanya. So tons of opinions on who's to blame here. Interesting question. Yes, the fight was boring. I think we can all agree to that. I think that's a fact. I'm not saying anything crazy or outrageous here. It wasn't the most exciting fight, but I think it takes two to tango. And I asked that to Dana White because he seemed that he was kind of criticizing Yoel Romero's performance, and then he did say something like, "Oh, it takes two to fight," and then I followed up and I asked him that. I'm like, it takes two to fight, but I kind of get the vibe that you think Romero is to blame here, and then he went off ripping Romero's performance. I do think there's something to what he's saying, and a bunch of media members afterwards were kind of voicing similar thoughts, but I do think maybe Romero's being a little bit unfairly criticized in this situation because it does take two to tango. Usually in order to create or have a boring performance, or I guess a lackluster fight, let's get the boring word out of the way, because I guess that's subjective, but most people thought it was boring. But yeah, a lackluster fight, not much action. It usually takes two people. There are rare instances where a fight actually can be lackluster with just one person doing most of the work. So one that comes to mind clearly, I don't know if you guys remember this, again, very little action, and it wasn't due to two guys. It was mainly, to be honest, Clay Guida kept the distance and was feinting a lot, and really you saw a guy like Gray Maynard just running him down. At some points he was like running after him and throwing these wild hooks and just walking. Corey versus, this is even farther back. Nick Quarry versus, I forgot what the dude's name was, but Nick Quarry was literally doing this and like was just like really frustrated. So it wasn't Romero versus, or Adesanya versus Romero wasn't exactly that. You didn't have one guy swinging wild hooks and running the other guy down, walking him down. It was a bit of both. It was a bit of both. And yeah, and it was boring. Now I'm not blaming either guy. Like I get it, you know, Yoel Romero cracks. You know, that guy hits extremely hard, and any little mistake that you make, and you know, that could be it. That could be it. And you know, you could potentially lose your title. So I don't blame Israel Adesanya for taking that kind of approach, and I don't blame Yoel Romero for taking the approach that he did, because he also knows that Israel Adesanya is an extremely talented kickboxer, one of the best strikers today, really. And yeah, you know, he's very precise and counters a lot. So he was kind of limiting his offense to limit the amount of openings and counters he can get caught in. So I don't blame him, but you know, the result was a lackluster fight. I think it's again, I think Romero's maybe being criticized a little bit too much here. I think the blame is on both guys. I will say this though, back to what I was saying earlier, as far as like Dana White having a little bit of a point. When you are the challenger, right? Like Izzy, all he does is has to keep his belt. Like he remains champion. So I guess, you know, I guess he can afford to be a little bit more defensive and kind of be a little bit more reserved, right? Because he only needs to defend, whereas Romero has to take the belt away from him. And again, that's not the best way of looking at it, because you should judge a fight completely, you know, that shouldn't come into play, who's champion or not. You should just judge it as far as who won. But I'll say this, you know, like, you know, he's in his 40s, you know, he's gotten a few shots at the title. You maybe would want to see a little bit more urgency, especially because he wasn't even supposed to get the title. You know, they kind of gave it to him just based out of his skill set, his athleticism, his highlight reel, what he can do. So you were kind of expecting something a little bit more, but yeah, so I think there's maybe a little bit of truth to that, but I'll say that I feel like Romero is being a little bit heavily criticized here, and I feel like the blame is on both guys. It takes two to tango, right? But yeah, so that's kind of my outlook on it. But look, I don't blame either guy. As I said, with those type of guys in each in their respective manner, it's dangerous. It's dangerous. Striking with them is dangerous, and you know, they took the precautions needed to, you know, that each thought that would get them the win. Obviously, we saw in the end that was that favored Adesanya. All right, hopefully I answered your question. Thank you, the Executioner 91, always submitting good stuff. Appreciate that. Let's see. I see some, try to keep it, this is going to be like earlier in the week. So maybe I'll answer some other questions outside of UFC 249, but I'll leave those to the end. I first want to address UFC 248 stuff, so just heads up. Redfish, always look forward to what you have to say, Danny. Keep it coming, man. Thank you, man. Thank you, Redfish. I appreciate it. All right, Mike on Twitter asks, is there anything in Spanish translation that differs significantly from what Joel said? We've seen translators make changes before. Yeah, so there's always going to be translation unless you really sit there and take your time and, you know, take hours and really look up each word. Like, translation is never going to be exactly the same. It just never is. Just because, like, you know, words, they're different words. There's, like, for example, there are words in Spanish that don't exist in English and vice versa. And each word has, like, might carry like a slightly different connotation or something, or like a slight different meaning. So translation is not always going to be 100%. But, you know, there are pretty good translators out there that pretty much carry out the exact same message. So I'll say this, for usually, and during the whole week, to be honest, the translation for Joel was rough. You know, I was listening in Spanish, obviously that's my native tongue, and, you know, I caught a lot of things that weren't later translated and told to the media. Luckily, like, whenever I write something about Yoel Romero or anybody that speaks Spanish for MMAJunkie.com, like, I go based off what I translate, not what the translator said. So usually, like, if you ever see like an article that Romero's quote is a little bit different than what the translator said, that's why. So So anyway, so throughout the whole week, it was a little bit rough, but I'll say that last dude at the press conference, he was pretty on point. I think that was the best translator Joel had all week. And also Joel, I think he's getting better and used to at sort of working with the translator. So an issue that often happens, and this happened to me interviewing Teco Quiñones, who lost to O'Malley. He just starts talking to me a lot in Spanish, and he doesn't stop. And then the translator, it's easy to translate a sentence or two, but if you're throwing out there 10, 15 sentences, it's hard to remember exactly everything. So you kind of try to convey the message, but it's not always a great translation. But the stuff at the press conference was accurate. There were some maybe slight differences here and there, but again, it's a very difficult job, and you're doing it live. You're doing it, on the fly. So it's a rough job. But I thought the guy did a pretty good job. But anyways, if you look at my timeline, everything he was saying, I was also translating as I was listening to him speak at the presser. And then we spoke a lot in Spanish. I don't know if you realized at the presser, and Joel kind of got amped up there and was just going on and off on the situation. So the translator didn't even translate it. We just went on to different questions. But in case you were wondering, when he was holding the water bottle, what he was saying, it was something along the lines of, he was really upset that his fans and just people in general paid for the pay-per-view, and it wasn't great. So he feels bad. He's like, I owe these people a great performance. That's what my career is made of, amazing performance. Hell, that's why I got this title shot, based off, my performances. So he was kind of bummed that he was at a big stage and didn't usually give out the type of product that he dishes out. So he said something is I see this water bottle. People paid for water. They didn't pay for beer. They didn't pay for whiskey. They paid for water. They paid for this, and we didn't give them that. They paid them. They paid us for something. We gave them a different product. So in a way, I feel like he feels like it was I don't know, maybe dishonest or something like that a little bit. Obviously, it's a fight. You never know what can happen. It can be boring. It can be exciting. You never know how it's going to play out. But and anyways, he said other things as well, but can't remember off the top of my head. To answer your question, Mike, I know I went on a little bit of a rant there. Yeah, it was pretty. It was fairly on point. Yeah, it was good. It's good translation. Gas Thomas on Twitter asks, it seems Joel is coming away from his lackluster title fight, taking most of the blame. Should Israel take any responsibility for how the fight went, or is it all on Joel, as Dana and the fans seem to be saying in the aftermath? I'm guessing, a lot of people feel like the blame is on Joel, but I said on my, answering the first question, I think both guys are to blame. It takes two to tango, like I said. There's a few cases where it doesn't, which I mentioned, and I didn't think this was one of them. But obviously, as the challenger, as someone that, is in a position that might not return, or you don't know, you would expect maybe a little bit of some urgency, especially late in the rounds from Romero. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I do feel like he's been unfairly blamed here. I think both guys are to blame, not only him. Also, I don't know how we're gonna feel about it a few days removed, but remember when Ngannou and Derek Lewis sucked? Everybody was like, "Oh, all right, this is the worst fight ever." It was not fun at all. And sort of Ngannou's stock went down, and people were wondering, because he was coming off a title fight loss, and they were wondering, oh, is he done? Is his confidence shot, and he's going to be done? Just a few days later, I felt like that kind of went away, and I feel like this will be a similar situation. I don't think this defines Yoel Romero's career or Israel Adesanya's. I'm sure whatever fight they're in next, which Adesanya's probably Costa, and who knows for Joel, I feel like it's gonna be exciting. I don't feel like this sets a precedent for what they're gonna do in their career. So I don't know. I feel like that's what it's gonna go is gonna sort of default to, and maybe a few days removed and a few fights removed, maybe we start thinking about that fight again. Kind of like some people are thinking about Derek Lewis versus Ngannou too. Maybe. I mean, both guys have the tools to be exciting. It's not like usually they're boring. So I don't know. I don't know how we're gonna feel about it a few days removed. But yeah, I don't know. I kind of went on a rant there. Hopefully that answered your question. Jace's, he's wearing a Chelsea shirt. Is that Chelsea? Can zoom in. All right. think it is. I think they beat. Didn't they get like a 4-0 win like a couple of days ago or yesterday or something like that? Anyways, what's next for Zhang? Tatiana is hurt, and I feel and Fio needs one more fight. Maybe a Rose. She's mentally ready for that. It was an amazing fight, but no immediate rematch. Again, this would be ladies listening to the show or to the stream. Happy International Women's Day. So yeah, so it wasn't that kind of cool. Like one of the greatest fights ever in women's history. Like I don't know exactly at what time it went down, but it probably, at least on the East Coast time, it probably came close to going down on International Women's Day. So that's kind of cool. But anyways, it was a fantastic fight. One of the best fights I've ever seen by far. Fight of the year candidate so far. I know we're early in the year, but I feel like it's going to be hard to beat that, to be honest. I said it on Twitter. This was by far the best strawweight title fight in UFC history. Very few fights can match that. And yeah, I was in the media room, and usually like fights are going down, and we're working and watching and keeping a close eye. And sometimes you're like, oh snap, this one. Everybody was hands off computer, just glued to the TVs, and you can hear because they have TVs all, like on the sides of the media room, like media tent, I guess. So like you hear like on one corner some people saying something, on the other corner like everybody was just so into it. And yeah, we're media, but like in times like these, you turn into a fan and you kind of forget about that you're working. It was just like such an amazing fight. So anyways, I just wanted to say that because I saw that Conor McGregor went on Twitter and said, it was a fantastic fight, but he disagreed with the decision. And then you got Valentina Shevchenko, a former foe of Jedrzejczyk, and it's not like they're super friendly towards each other, right? I remember their buildup was kind of intense a little bit, or maybe that was just theatrics. I don't know, but certainly a former foe. Saying, also agreeing with Conor McGregor and saying, that was the wrong decision that Joanna Jedrzejczyk won. I thought Zhang won, but like it was close, man. I was like, I don't know, you never know. It was definitely close. So I know you're saying, Jason, that there might not be an immediate rematch, but like with Tatiana Suarez, who I think is the #1 contender, and again, there's a big fight with Rose and Andrade. Maybe if Rose wins, she could probably get it, maybe. Yeah, I don't know what's next for Zhang. I wouldn't rule out an immediate rematch. I mean, I know it sounds a little crazy, but again, it was a fantastic fight, and it seems there are people that disagree with the result. I thought Zhang took it, and I think Rose would be a good contender if Tatiana Suarez is not healthy. I think Suarez deserves the shot. I disagree with you in the sense that you feel like she needs one more win. I think she's done enough. She's proved she's a legit threat and could very well become champion. So I want to see if she can do that, especially against Zhang. That'd be interesting. So yeah, but then if Rose beats Andrade, I feel like she could have a solid case as well. And don't count out Joanna Jedrzejczyk. That was an amazing performance and one of the best performances of her career, even in defeat. All right, Jace is again. Discussing main event, the level of wrestling defense we saw from Izzy, he looked to have improved. With no elite wrestler close to a title shot in middleweight, how many more fights before Izzy has to move up? After Costa, I don't see anyone I want to see fight Izzy. So I actually do. I feel like there's interesting challengers coming up. Jared Cannonier, he tore his him also, but he's shown some interesting stuff, and I feel like he'd be an interesting threat. Obviously, Costa is a fantastic matchup. I want to see that one. I'm really excited for that one whenever it goes down. I believe both verbally agreed at the presser, like, yeah, July sounds like a good date, but nothing set in stone. I think Edmund Sebastian is looking good. Again, he's fighting Derek Brunson. He was supposed to fight him this card, if I'm not mistaken. He's fighting Brunson in Portland, I believe. So you never know what he can do there, Derek Brunson is legit. He's one of the best at 185. So if you beat him, especially with something impressive, we'll definitely put you in that conversation. And I'm trying to think what other contenders. Let me pull up the rankings here, the UFC weight rankings. But yeah, I like to see him stay at 185. Like I wouldn't hate a 205 move, especially if it's against John Jones. But I do think he's got like enough contenders at 185 to keep him busy for a couple of years. Yeah. So look, check this out. So you got Robert Whittaker, who you can't count him out. I know he suffered a bad loss, but that man's very skilled, and you never know. He can definitely put some moves together and start building a case for himself. You never know. You got Paulo Costa. You got Romero still. I think he's a threat. Jared Cannonier, Darren Till, Edmund Shabazian coming up. So there are enough contenders out there to keep the champ busy. So I disagree with you with you there. But yeah, but if he moves up, I wouldn't hate it either. I think that that'd be fun. Jace is back at it again. All signs point that El Cholo is leaving. Is there any contingent plan if he does leave? So he's talking about my dear team, Atletico Madrid, who tied against, was it Valencia or something like that, 2-2. Yeah, the team's undergoing a bit of a rough patch. We're fifth, I believe, on the La Liga table, so that's not good. We want a Champions League spot, so top 3. But in Champions League, we did beat Liverpool 1-0, and we're, I mean, I don't want to jinx it, but there could be a good chance that we beat them and we get through. So it's not the worst season in the world. I think the Liverpool match, I believe that's the 11th, will be a key moment to decide how bad this season is. But if we get past the champions, I feel like it's not a bad season, and we'll probably change Cholo's mind from leaving. But I've heard a lot of those rumors. I don't know how true they are, to be honest. I think El Cholo is, Atletico is embedded in his DNA, and Atletico Madrid loves him, and the fans love him. And, he's done a lot for the team, so I don't see him leaving, to be honest. But I've heard those rumors as well, but I don't find them to be true. I don't think so. All right. Was that it for Twitter? Maybe. Let me refresh here. Yeah, I believe that was it for Twitter questions. So I'm going to take things to the live chat now. Thank you to everyone that submitted questions on Twitter. It gets the show, this program in the undercard. So Terrence Leveriette, probably butchered that, says, what do you think is next for Deron Winn? I think for his frame, he should be fighting 155 or 145. Do you think he can take the Alexander Volkanovski, Jared Cannonier approach and lose mass to fight at the optimal weight class? Because he does have skill, just not size. Thanks, Danny. Yeah, great question. So Deron Winn suffered a second consecutive defeat, losing in a submission rear naked choke loss to Jared him. Now he's so much taller, kept him at the end of the jab, just jabbed him and kind of was hurting him slowly there. Then when he was covering at the top, he attacked the body with hooks and kicks, and was slowing him down there, and kind of go down spinning, and then got his back taken and got submitted. That's basically what happened. He's clearly a fighter. I do agree with you. Being 5'6" at 185 has to be a disadvantage. And strength-wise, it's not there. We saw him, hit a beautiful throw. That was more than strength, but he can definitely out-wrestle and grapple and hanging with the bigger guys. But man, the reach is a big deal, man. And it was funny because when Gerald came to the back, I asked him, I'm like, how was it weird? Was it awkward fighting him? Because I assume you don't have that much experience sparring against 5'6" middleweights. And he's like, yeah, it was definitely a little bit different. And he said, my jab is usually not that good. So he even admitted like he's not, doesn't have like the best jab in the world, but it looks so good against Deron Winn because, he has that reach advantage is so big. So I agree with you. I think his frame, maybe not his frame, but definitely his height is definitely suited for a lower weight class. Even like 5'6" at 170 is kind of short. You got guys like Michael Chiesa who are like 6 foot. A few other guys as well that are pretty tall. So even then he can maybe find some issues with the range. But again, it won't be compared the issues that he probably experiences at middleweight. But man, he's so thick. That dude, his back, he has the back of like a light heavyweight. Like his back is so wide, and his legs, everything. He's just like a really thick dude. So, I mean, it's tough. It's tough. Everybody has a different body type. I do think if possible, he should try to see, a nutritionist or someone that could maybe get him down to 170 in a healthy manner. Like jacked up fighters have done it before, especially like short ones. A good example was Hector Lombard. Like Hector Lombard's 5'8", so 2 inches taller than Deron Winn. And he used to be a killer at 185, and he was having some issues there. And I remember he trimmed down the muscle a little bit and came down to 170 and ended up having a decent career there. Then he had some tough losses and went a bit of a losing skid, but nonetheless, he did have some success at 170. Mirko Harris also did the same thing. I believe he was also like 5'8", jacked up at middleweight, but again, he was fighting those longer guys and he was having issues. Dropped down to 170, did quite well. I believe he became World Series of Fighting champion, right? If I'm not mistaken. Heel hooking John Fitch, maybe. So it's been done before. So yeah, that's a decision he has to take, but that's on him. I agree with you. I think his height is definitely suited for a smaller weight class. We'll see what he does. But obviously, that's on him. All right, that does it for Twitter. So I'm going to take things to the live chat. I'm going to pop the chat right here, pull it up on the screen next to me, and then we'll tackle those questions. Thank you for everyone that watching this live, and also everyone that watched the I guess I labeled it as a Q&A, but it was really mostly like the UFC 248 preview. That was pretty cool. And also Chris Cyborg at the end. That caught me by surprise. She jumped in the chat she was watching, and that was pretty cool, and dropped the comment. So that was neat. But anyways, let me go down the chat. Also, if you have any questions, now is the time to submit them. I'll be reviewing the live chat. All right. We got about 30 minutes left. What do you think of the MMA fans who say Joanna Jedrzejczyk got robbed? So it's not just MMA fans. As I mentioned, Valentina Shevchenko disagrees. Connor disagrees. They are European, so maybe you can be like, oh, they're biased, kind of rooting for their people, I guess. I don't know. But I do think there's a case. I mean, it was a close fight. If it would have gotten for Jedrzejczyk, I would have been a little bit surprised, but I wouldn't have been mad. Again, she put on a fantastic performance, landed really good shots, had Zhang, and everybody watching was shook. Imagine that being you. Like you have to feel it. I mean, you could probably even see it, to be honest. That thing was huge. Probably worse than Mark Hominick's, because Mark Hominick's was like one ball. Like this was her entire forehead popping out, which was insane, and she kept fighting so tough. But yeah, I believe the kind of momentum started turning there. But even then, she was still moving forward, swinging, throwing hard shots, looking to win the fight. I believe even with that, like towards the end, she had like a nice like spinning back fist. She looked good. So again, I don't think those people that believe she won, I don't think they're crazy. Everybody sees things differently, and JJ definitely did enough to kind of make a case for herself for winning that fight. Melvin Collins, I'd also like to know what you think about Dana putting 100% of the blame on Joel when, yeah, I don't think it's 100% on him. So kind of disagree there a little bit. Peter Houghton. Good point, Melvin. Dana was hot. Wait, that was not a question. Let's see. Mike Belosevich. Thanks for doing these, Danny. It still baffles me that you're only at 2,200 subs, considering how good your content really is. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, no, 2,000. I feel like that's kind of like a good number, man. I believe when I started this, I was like, when I relaunched my channel, because I already had it, I was only at 1,000. So I've gained about like 1,300 in just a couple months here. And I feel like, I'm pretty happy with that progress. So I am grateful for all the 2,200 of you guys. So thank you very much. And if you're watching this, subscribe. But yeah, it'd be sick to have more subscribers. I mean, it's up to you. Subscribe if you want. But I'm pretty happy with that number, with the sort of with the progress of this channel. It's been cool. Wait, this is a stream dropped? Or are you trolling me? Oh no, first. Oh yeah, so Jackson Round says stream dropped as soon as Joanna Zhang started. Yeah, the ESPN Plus app seems to be a little clunky recently. I saw a lot of people complaining about it. We in the media room, you get the direct broadcast. It's not like they log in on the TV for ESPN Plus. So when it goes on breaks, I believe that it's just black. Like we don't have any commercials. The last time I used it was for like what fight did I watch? What was the last pay-per-view? UFC 246? No, but I saw it in Colombia. 47. What was 47? Yeah, I believe I had a little bit of issues with UFC 247, but it wasn't bad. It just froze a couple times. So, yeah, but I've heard other people have like not so great stories with the app, with the platform. Let's see. Nicholas Thompson. What's next for O'Malley? He wants to return International Fight Week. Maybe try to make the Vera fight again. Dude, the Vera fight would be good, but Vera's booked to fight Eddie Wineland at UFC Columbus. That's a good fight, man. I'm really happy for Vera. I mean, it sucks that he wasn't able to get Jimmy Rivera because, you know, there was a little bit of bad blood history. And Rivera's up in the rankings. He's number 7. And, you know, you guys have seen me speak about this publicly. I think, you know, Vera with 5 finishes in a row, you know, 5-fight win streak, the way he's looked, I think it's time he deserves a ranked opponent. So still, you know, a top contender because, you know, he's had some losses, and I think some people, I believe he's what, like only 25. So I don't know, put him in some fun fights, you know, sort of keep building the momentum. So yeah, I'm not too concerned with his matchmaking moving forward. Again, just as long as he gets a good fight, someone that has a little bit of a name. But as far as like rankings, and you don't really have to pick and choose all that much for him. I feel like any fight he'd be in, it's going to be a good fight. Great performance, by the way. I just want to add that El Teco Quiñones is tough. That man is tough, and O'Malley was able to make it look easy. And he was calm, cool, collected the entire time. He looked good out there. Also, you know, first fight back in a bit. Yeah, the dude's looking good. Very good. I know you got Grey Goose in that bottle. No, this is good old water. I do not like vodka. I think vodka is probably my least favorite liquor. I prefer whiskey. I prefer aguardiente. I prefer maybe even gin. I prefer rum, tequila, mezcal. Definitely vodka is in the last of my of the pecking order for liquors, 100%. Paul Stefani, not a question but a statement. Dariush knockout was legit. Woo! And that reaction from Cormier and Joe Rogan, it was fantastic. Yeah, I mean, that was everybody at home. Dariush, known as a grappler, he has fantastic jiu-jitsu. Close is you know, he's a banger. He's a heavy hitter, and you know, he's a tough dude. Is known to have a good chin on him. I did not see that coming. I believe that was Dariush's first knockout win since putting away James Vick in 2016. So it's been 4 years, man. A long time for him. And he got hurt, and, you know, he stayed in the pocket and swung back. That was a fun fight. That was a really fun fight. Amazing knockout from Dariush. I believe he's in a pretty good spot right now. Let me pull up his record. He might be like on a four-fight win streak or something like that. Kind of sneaky, to be honest. Let me see. Yeah, 4-fight win streak. That's pretty good at lightweight. So he beat Thiago Moses in 2018, November 2018. Then March 2019, beating Drew Dober via submission. That's a good one. And then after that, he fought in October 2019, beating Frank Camacho via submission. And now Drakkar closed via KO in March. So nice, solid wins right there. All those guys are tough. Those guys are good fighters who who've picked up wins in the UFC, like they're UFC caliber fighters. Yeah, so 155 again, one of these weight classes that's super exciting, that has tons of contenders, and for whatever reason, because I was writing his recap, that was one of my duties working last night for MMA Junkie, write the close Dariush recap, and so obviously like after while I'm writing, I have to include, or I like to include, some stats here and there. And then I was looking at his age. Dude, the dude is just 30 years old. 30. Can you believe it? For whatever reason, I thought Dariush is just like this old guy that's been fighting for a long time. And he has been fighting for a long time. But that's how early, I guess, he started in the UFC. He started in the UFC back in 2014. So 6 years ago. So he was 24 about. So, yeah, started young. It might have been 23, 24. Yeah. But anyways, yeah, solid wins for him. I'd like to see him get a top guy, just outside of the top 15 to see, how he looks there. 4 fights, four wins in a row. 3 of those were 3 performances of the night in a row. So the dude's looking good, man. He's looking good. Let's see. Holloway to Ortega's so gonna get killed by Korean Zombie. I thought that was a question. I shouldn't read that. Try to say nice things if you ask questions, or maybe not nice things, but word in a professional manner, because I hate reading sometimes stuff like that. Like, those are not my words, just to be clear. But yeah, apparently, just to touch on that a little bit, apparently there was like a little bit of a scuffle between Brian Ortega and Korean Zombie. That's what Dana White said, and a few others kind of confirmed it. The details are very vague, but something like Ortega slapped Korean Zombie's translator or something like that. I'm not entirely sure on that. But I believe I've been super busy working and not sleeping, but there's a story on that on MMAJunkie.com, so you can find all the details there. Spot on picks. Izzy seems to struggle a bit more with southpaws. What do you think? That's Let's see. If Joanna's the champion, does that decision go her way? Oof. I don't know. I'd like to say no. I'd like to say that, judges are judging that fight, just solely on what's going on inside of the cage and no outside factors, such as a belt. But I don't know. But that's an interesting question. You can say the same thing about the main event. What if Romero was the champion? Would the judges would have given him the decision? Because he probably had some of the better shots, at least some of the better punches. He cracked Izzy a couple of times, but again, there weren't many of them. That's the issue. If it is, I apologize. Oh yeah, people are complaining about it. My bad. Oh shit! How long has this been going on? I'm just too busy reading questions. Is it good now? Can you guys say something on the chat? We got about 15 minutes. Can you say something about the stream? It's working now, Alex Howie. Okay, yeah, I'll be more mindful of that, like turning off my Wi-Fi, and I don't know. Usually, I have a really good connection, and my internet's pretty good. So this is the first one. That is strange. Anyways, let's go back to the questions. All right. All right. This is not UFC 248 related, but I'll go ahead and tackle it because it's timely, it's relevant, and UFC 248 Fight Week had elements about this. So Kip Moore asks, I know the New York State declared a state of emergency. They allocated a lot of money towards dealing with this situation. So I hope, but I don't know. That's a good question. I wouldn't rule it out, but I'm being hopeful. Knock on wood, that fight does go down, and coronavirus doesn't wreck New York. That's what I'm hoping. Oh man, so apparently the stream got like a lot worse. All right, I apologize about that. So how about I call it quits? I got 15 minutes left. This is very unfortunate. Let me see here what I can do to make it better. Yeah, I don't know what to tell you guys. Can you guys throw something in the chat, por favor? Let me see here. Damn. Is the stream doing all right? It's working. Okay. I mean, I turned off the Wi-Fi on my phone. I know that helps a little bit. Let me turn on the Wi-Fi on this other computer I have, my work computer. Damn. Yeah, that blows. It's tough connection and all that. It's tough. I usually, like I said, I usually have on-point connection, so I don't know what to do here. Let me turn off the Wi-Fi off my computer, and then hopefully that's a little better for you guys. All right. So that's that. How is it now? Somebody please throw something in the chat, por favor. It's great. All right. Okay. If it gets worse again, I don't want to go back and forth, so I'll just end things. But again, it's only 10 minutes. I did turn off the Wi-Fi off my cell phone and work computer, so hopefully that helps. That hopefully it helps. But again, if it sucks, just let me know. And last thing I want to do is have a shitty stream. So I'll call it quits. I've been speaking for a good amount of time anyway, so I feel like we got some good stuff in. All right. Immediate rematch. It doesn't seem Dana White is in favor of that. It doesn't seem Adesanya is in favor of that. But I do think Romero is still a world-class fighter. I think he still has a lot left in the tank. And, I think there are compelling fights out there. I believe somebody floated the idea of Romero versus Till. I don't particularly love it. I feel like Till should have, I mean, he's young. He's coming up. I feel like he'd be rushed against Romero, but I'd be lying if I'd say that that's not a good fight in a fight that I don't want to see. I feel like that'd be a pretty good fight. So that could be an option. I mean, really anybody in the top 5 against Romero is a fantastic fight. It's a fantastic matchup and an interesting one. Romero Gastelum is a good one. Ken and Neil Romero, that'd be a four. Who else? Jacare is back in town, right? All right. Any more questions? I believe that's it on the live chat. If anybody has anything to say, I'll answer that now. We got 10 minutes. No, yeah, 10 minutes. Would Vieira fight have been stopped if he didn't have control of the ground? Maybe. That eye was looking rough, man. Swollen shut. It's pretty bad, but dude, that guy's an absolute unit. How about that win? The way he's so technical as well, which is scary. The way he had that arm triangle and the way he got it, like he first, because his opponent was like locking up on him right from the bottom, and he got his right hand behind the back of his head and gripped something that is often done in jiu-jitsu. You grip the lat, the muscle right here. You grip it, so it's hard for the opponent to shake off that grip. And then he slowly used his hand and walked around it to get his bicep close to his hand. And once he was able to do that, boom, he locked it up, and that was it. That thing was airtight, man. That was, I mean, if he didn't tap, his head was going to pop off. Yet as an absolute unit, an extremely technical fighter on the ground. And, yeah, I mean, that dude, what weight class is he fighting? Because he looks huge. Middleweight. Oh, imagine, for example, Rodolfo Vieira versus Yoel Romero. That'd be fun. Yeah, I mean, they're playing fights for both guys. Interesting fights in the division. They're good additions. All right. Skemily get finished by Oliveira a couple weeks, something like that, or next week. Yeah, that's a good fight. I'm looking forward to it. All right, any more questions about UFC 248? Any other performances you guys want to talk about, or anything else? If not, I'm going to call it quits right here. Going once, going twice. What does effective striking actually mean for the scoring of the rules? Landing, causing damage, all that good stuff. Yeah. Anyways, I'm going to call it quits here. Thank you for joining me. I apologize for the connection. I would have, next time I will turn off all the Wi-Fi. You were able to catch most of the things I said. If not, sorry. And I'll try to have that, not happen again. Yeah. So anyways, make sure you stick around this channel. I'll be doing a live Q&A, not a recap, a live Q&A of just news and headlines. I'll actually answer stuff, anything you want on that. It'll probably be early this coming week, so stay tuned to that. Also, follow me on Twitter, Instagram, subscribe to the channel, give this video a thumbs up, and that's it. Hopefully you guys enjoy the fights and have a good rest of your Sunday. All right? Later.